Hello, everyone, and welcome to the best and worst of Walt Disney World, brought to you by Dreams Unlimited Travel, experts at helping you plan the perfect Disney vacation. Be sure to visit them on the web at Dreams Unlimited Travel. I am your host, Ryno Clavin, and this week I will be joined by Deni Sunderly.
Hey there.
And in today's episode, we are going to be talking about the 7 best Walt Disney World attraction scenes. This was inspired by a contributor's article, which was titled The 5 Best Walt Disney World Attraction Scenes. And I didn't agree with the article, but it's also personal perspective. I didn't disagree with all of it, but it is one of those fun articles where you go through and it's nice to read why this person picked. This was written by Sherry Kessler. And I thought it was a fun read of an article, so be sure to check that out at wdwinfo.com. I'll put a link to it in the notes here, in the description of this YouTube video, and in the show notes section for the show if you're interested in reading that. And I recommend that because I always enjoy reading why people love the things they love at Disney World. I don't know, right?
Yep. Oh, absolutely. And Disney World is ginormous. So to cull everything down to just 5 scenes, that's a tough task, as we have found out.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, Sherry did a great job.
So Deni and I came up with our own 5 by ourselves, and some of those overlapped. So this is why we have 7, because there was a couple where we have like personal preferences and reasons for it. And it's tough because when you go through and you think, well, what are the best scenes? It's like, what speaks to you the best, right? Like what ignites that excitement? That childlike wonder within you. And, so it was like, do I go at it from a neutral standpoint where you're like, well, what's the most technologically inventive? Because bunch of these on the list, actually, I'd feel like aren't even necessarily technologically advanced. They're just fun scenes, right? So, Deni, I'm going to let you start for us. So why don't you go first?
All right. So this was one of the ones that both you and I had on our list. And it is the town burning scene in Pirates of the Caribbean. So just the whole entire scene is something that I really, you talked about childlike, this is something that I delight in. Like if the boats are backed up, I don't mind. I want to sit there for as long as I can just to be able to look around. I've mentioned it before, the pirate with all the hats on his head trying to get into the boat, the hairy leg of the pirate on the bridge, the whole 9 yards. And I think just every sense has something to take in that scene. And so as you're sitting there, it's so much fun I just kind of I try to find details that I haven't found before, just by looking, if you've got enough time, looking at it and enjoying it. It's a classic, but it's definitely on my list.
Yeah, it's a very memorable scene for sure too, because you're kind of taking this turn, which you've seen the big pirate ship, which is great, and now you've kind of gone down this like smaller alleyway. So it's this kind of like breadth and scope of what the pirates have been up to, and so it is cool to see it like all on fire, like you said. You've got the pirate just teetering back and forth, the guy sleeping with the pigs, and it's just this fun. Like when they added all that extra stuff to it, it kind of kicked it up to the next level for me. And it's definitely, when I think of pirates, that was like the first thing I thought of too. I know a lot of people might think of like the ship or whatever, but I was just like, I like the town burning.
Yep. And it might seem cliche, like, well, of course it's that scene, but you think of it for a reason. It is iconic. So. Yeah,
and we do have another one on our list that might seem a little cliche, as Deni said, a little more like, oh, of course. But I definitely agree with it, and that's in the Haunted Mansion. For me, I love the ballroom scene, and it's just I believe that effect that they do in that scene is Pepper's ghost, right? And I still to this day there are a couple effects in the Haunted Mansion, like the turning statues and stuff, that work in this way where it's like, okay, well, we know how your brain perceives information, and we kind of twist that on its head. And that is just mind-blowing to me, because it is one of those attractions where it's just such a simple idea, but it's the mind works in such weird ways that you're able to like twist it. And I still like, people explain it where they're like, okay, well, they're mannequins underneath of where the ride vehicles are, and the light flashes through, and there's glass and whatever. And I'm like, but I still don't get it. Like, I still don't understand how I can
Nope.
see them and then not see them again. Like, I understand that it's like reflection, but why can't I see anything else? And I'm just a simple-minded person in that manner. But I love it. And what I love about it too, like I said, is that this is an effect that is not not new, and this attraction's been around for however many years now, 50 years, right? Or at least the Disneyland one was. And so
Right.
it's just crazy to me.
Absolutely.
Someone rang my doorbell right at that moment, which was great. But Deni, what do you have to say about the ballroom scene?
Yeah, it's so funny because every single time, I mean, I've been on Haunted Mansion so many times, but every time when the Doom buggy turns and all of a sudden that scene is before me, it still catches my breath and surprises me. And I go, oh, that's right. I get to look at this now. And um, I'm really thankful for those moments where the track stops and I'm able to sit there lingering for just a couple extra moments so that I can take in everything. It is a feast for the eyes. And there's just so much, all those details to be able to take in and try to, lace the backstory together with what you're seeing. So for me, that was a no-brainer on my list. I also put in the attic scene because there are so many things in that attic. Like, I would love to be able to take a walking tour of Haunted Mansion, right? And be able to walk through the attic and get close to every single thing, every wedding that she had with every husband, and get to piece all those things together. But the ballroom scene really was really tops on that list for me.
It's hard to pick one scene in the Haunted Mansion for the reason, like you said, there are these beautifully like layered scenes, and I think about the ballroom scene again, like you said, it tells so much of the story because you kind of have the people having the party, and then you have the people dancing, but then you have the shoot off happening above you, and then there's somebody swinging. So there's like so much to look at, and then but then you have a scene like the attic as well that's layered with all of those stories, and then of course you have Constance, up there, and then it's like, well, then I also love the graveyard scene. But ultimately, I did go with that one that like kind of played with my mind the most too. But Deni, you have another one on here that was like, I agree with you, but it's not in my list. But I do agree with you.
Okay, for mine, and my next one is Peter Pan's Flight. It's the flying over London scene. I love so much the opportunities that I get to go on that attraction and just peer over the side. Safety first, though, so be careful not to peer over the side too far. But just to watch the little cars and to notice all the architecture and all the, iconic buildings from London, and it's such a simple effect, right? Well, not simple because I can't build something like that myself.
Right, yeah.
But it's that childlike wonder is what it is. That's completely what I feel when I'm in my ship flying over London. I love it so much.
Yeah, it is definitely easily my favorite scene in that attraction, and it's the same reason I love that same thing that happens when you do it at ET at Universal Studios. Is that it's just something. When I was a kid, I thought that I was like, oh, you talk about leaning over. I'm afraid of heights, so already the fact that you're on that attraction vehicle that's hanging as opposed to like sitting on something, and I would be like, don't look over, we're gonna fall plummet to our deaths down here, because I also was like, that's hundreds of feet below us. And talk about that childlike wonder. I look at it and I am fascinated. Like I love that little, it does give you that moment of almost like you are flying, and it's really cool. Yep. I definitely agree with that. And so a personal one for me on this list, it is no secret that I do love the attraction Dinosaur. I have always enjoyed time travel and dinosaurs, and you put those two things together and we have a great attraction for me. But I feel like, Dinosaur sometimes gets a bad rep because I know, like Craig has said before, and I've heard it from other people, like it feels like some rooms weren't finished. Like there are some empty hallways and things like that I never really noticed until they started lightening it up recently. But I still think, even with all of that, that when you first come out of the time tunnel and you are in that prehistoric era and you take that turn and it's like the air changes and the sound changes and you can hear all these like noises of the different dinosaurs. But then when all the animatronics are working and you have that one dinosaur that's eating the other one and there's like the raptor on the left and you're just like fully involved in it. There are so many like little there's just so many dinosaurs, and I just love what the wall looks like, and I love the decorating in there. And it's like, wow, I love that really feels like a moment where it was like, oh, I moved backwards in time, and I still remember. I didn't go on that until I was like 22 years old, because I had never been to Animal Kingdom until the year I moved here, and it was just I was like, right away, I was like, oh my gosh, if I was a kid, this would have been the best ride in the world for me. Like, it's still scary, but it also was just like transportive. And it felt like I went somewhere else and then I came back and I had this awesome adventure that wasn't a roller coaster, but it also wasn't like a regular dark ride. So it was like, it made me feel like I had conquered something and done something. And so I just really feel like that first scene really pulls you into that story.
It does. And I really hadn't considered the fact that there is a change in the air in that room. That there's a temp change. There's, I would argue there's a smell to the air as well. And there's just the palpable change that kind of jars you. Like, oh no, you're definitely, something's up here and you're in a different spot in a different area. And, a different time. So not until you said that did I really go, oh, you're right. Like, there is an air change. They kind of thought, of course, they're Disney. They thought of everything. But no, absolutely. And immediately, you have a little bit of a sense of foreboding.
Yeah.
As well, which is, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it puts you on edge, right? It's like right away because you have the sound of the meteors, but also like, there's a dinosaur eating another dinosaur right there. And you're like, well, that can't go well for the rest of this trip.
A little foreshadowing.
You do have another one on your list, though, that I do also love. Like it is like it's definitely another one of it's probably my favorite in this attraction.
Yeah, it's Muppet Vision 3D in Disney's Hollywood Studios. So it is the scene almost at the very end. It's before the fire truck comes on in. But it's where the Swedish chef takes out his hunting rifle and starts shooting toward the stage. And of course, my favorite place to sit in that theater is the very front row. I want to get as close to the Penguin Orchestra as I can, and I watch them more than I'm watching the film on the screen, because they interact with things so much and they interact with each other. They have so much just direction almost the entire time. They do drop down at one point and then they come back up toward the end. And of course, the Swedish chef is firing toward the stage and the penguins aren't going to have that. So they roll out their cannon and start shooting backwards. And so the entire last scene, I'm looking at the stage and I'm looking backwards and I'm looking because I want to take it all in. And of course, spoiler alert, if you've not been on it, although it's been there forever, so hopefully you have, the whole theater goes up in flames and in cannon fire at the end. And it's just the best. That is, I feel like a kid in that theater watching those amazing Muppets. So.
Yeah, and I really enjoy, like you said, that added effect of like the theater kind of starting to crumble from the shots and everything like that. I feel like that's a really nice thing. And I don't know, there's just something funny that the Swedish chef pulls out a musket to me that just makes me laugh so much. Like, of course he did.
Well, he had to go out and get, the turkey for tonight's dinner, I guess.
That's funny. Knows? Yeah. I didn't even think, yeah.
I don't know. Bless his heart.
My next one on the list is fairly new too. So a lot of people probably haven't done this one yet. So I'll try not to. It might have some spoilers. So I'd maybe, if you haven't done Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, I do think there is a scene that is worth noting in here for sure. The attraction is very fun, I think, and there was one part, and I still go on it, that I love to be like, if I could just get out of the car and stand off to the side and watch the cars keep coming through and the scene keep happening for a couple times in a row, I would be thrilled. but it is the like second to last scene of the attraction, and it's when they are going into the like warehouse. I don't know what you would call it.
Hmm.
And they're basically, going you coming in, and it's this warehouse with all these like machines, and they're kind of crunching away, and Mickey pulls a switch, and it essentially changes the entire scene. So everything collapses, and all of a sudden becomes this like carousel and like beautiful park scene with like this like lamplight and all these things, and like the music changes immediately, and the switch happens like that. And I would say it is like all that type of technology that they're using inside of Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway with this like projection mapping on three-dimensional surfaces. I think what they do in that final scene is that where it's like, wow, this is what you can do with this sort of a thing. And like so potentially you could turn it into something else, I guess, too. But it's also the reason why I love that part so much is because the scene that reappears for some reason is very reminiscent of Mary Poppins to me.
Oh.
It reminds me of like when they go into the chalk drawing and like, and they're like in the park, and I don't know why that happens, but that's what I think about when I see it. And I just immediately feel like it's insane that can take me somewhere else so quickly, but also immediately make me feel like I'm somewhere else. So it's not just like, okay, here's the part where we're supposed to be somewhere else. No, it's like you're literally like the world just transformed around you. And it's really incredible.
It is. Well, and it's, you are facing impending doom when you enter that room, right? The chomper is in front of you and you're like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? And like you said, it's like snap of the fingers, a flip of a switch, and everything folds down and becomes something brand new. And I really intentionally, the last time I was on the attraction, tried to really watch for that change because I feel like, there are so many details to pay attention to. It's hard to take it all in. But it's just so stunning. And you're right. It does have that kind of that sketched look, that painted effect.
Yeah.
And of course, I love the song, Nothing Can Stop Us Now.
Yeah.
So anytime you've got Mickey and Minnie sitting there singing that and everything's blue sky and daisies, then it's just perfect.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like while we're talking about it, I'm like, I want to go on that ride again. But our last one, which is we both also agreed on and said was great, is also a newer ride and one that is a little more difficult to get on. So Deni, why don't you take us home here?
Yes. So spoiler alert for those who are trying to avoid any scenes from Rise of the Resistance at Hollywood Studios, because that's where we're going with our very last one. It would be easy to go, hey, it's the AT-AT room, right? The AT-AT room. And oh, they're amazing. And look at them. But for me and for you, Ryno, we both had the gun deck. Mm-hmm. And the scene where you are dancing, back and forth with those ion cannons as they're firing. And if you turn to the right and you can see this battle ensuing out of these, huge windows, but it's so much fun. So I watched the cannons and then I watched the battle scene and I watched the cannons and it's so just, I remember the first time that we turned the corner and there were those ginormous cannons in front of the ride vehicle. And I just went, oh my goodness. So it's that feeling. And I feel it every single time. Again, stunning, again, childlike wonder, the whole 9 yards, what they did with that scene. What about you?
Yeah. And what's great too, is you kind of, it can feel a little bit different depending on which of the two cars you're in too, because one car can kind of like just goes right in and then has to stop and pull back a little bit, and then the other car saw the other one go away, and so you're kind of you're having this like interesting experience. But it's insane that so much has happened in that attraction up to that point as well. So you think you've like seen, it's like one amazing thing after another, and then you get to the scene, and I remember the first thing I saw, you're like, oh my gosh. It's these giant cannons that are going back and forth, and it's not just like they're moving back and forth. Like it literally looks like, because they shoot and they like pull back when they shoot, and it's just also like I've never thought about this room in Star Wars before. And so that's another part of what's cool about moving through this is that I was like, I don't know that I remember seeing this in any of the movies. And so I'm just sitting there being like, wow, we are like really moving around this ship. And you're right, this like amazing battle scene that I honestly barely even look at because I'm just staring straight ahead at the cannons because it's so much. And like I've gone on this ride. Whenever somebody goes on this ride, I try to point out little things because there's like little stuff that you're missing because you're looking at this big stuff, like, especially in that when you move to the room after this too, because nobody ever notices the TIE fighter coming toward the ship. And so that's where I'm always like, look, like you have to watch this happening. Yeah. And but yeah, the cannons will always, it's just one of those things where it's just these massive things that are just moving that you're trying to tiptoe in between. And it's literally, it feels like that sort of classic adventure movie. You know, it's the bridge with the boards that fall out underneath of you. It's that kind of feeling that I feel like you get from it. And I love it. But we did have a couple that we spoke about before too that I feel like we want to bring up for honorable mentions. And while we're at studios, I feel like we're gonna say another one, which is insane to me because now that means 3 out of 7 of these were at studios, and there were 3 at Magic Kingdom and then 1 at Animal Kingdom. Sorry, Epcot. But then with the honorable mention, we're gonna have 2 at Animal Kingdom and 4 at studios. But I am not in love with the actual like moving part of Tower of Terror, but I love the conception and the completion of Tower. Like I love that you go in and it's like this old Hollywood hotel. And what we were saying is that we honestly feel like the lobby and for me like the pre-show and then like going from the lobby to the pre-show into the boiler room it's just such a cool experience that really, again, I know I've said the word before, like it feels very transportive. And that's like supposed to be what it is. And you're like entering the Twilight Zone. I love that it feels it like that. Like sometimes it takes a while for you to like pull into an attraction, you know, like as much as everybody loves Flight of Passage, you know, and the queue is impressively built and stuff like that. I don't always feel pulled into that. I feel like I know what I'm doing because it's explained to me. But when you're at Hollywood Tower, I mean, you're going up this hill kind of toward this building. And then when you go in, you're going through a courtyard. And then when you hit that lobby with like the dust and you're like, this feels like no one's been in here for forever. And this could very well have happened here. And it's really something else, I feel like.
No, I agree with you completely. That lobby and the queue, the whole 9 yards. I would love to just ask the cast members. Like I took the last time I was there, took a ton of pictures because with the limited capacity in the parks these days, you kind of have a little bit more room to be able to move and groove. And so I took lots of queue pics as of the gardens outside and of the exterior of the ride building. But that lobby, I so want to be able to just walk around in that lobby, from the details like the Mahjong game that is incomplete to just the dust on the couch and the cobwebs from the ceiling and the dead flowers in the vase. It's just fantastic. Layers upon layers of love and detail have just been poured into this attraction. And I love the attraction all the way, you know, from beginning to end. So I'm down with the whole enchilada. But
yeah.
But definitely the library of course, they're not these days showing the library scene during this. I know. So you have to walk through it, which is heartbreaking. It's like, I want to linger in this room because again, there's so many details in there. But yeah, any little bit of time I get to spend there is a good thing. And it is a dream of mine to be able to walk in the lobby. So we'll see.
Oh my gosh. Come on, Disney, give us the dinner party we want to sign up for.
Please.
Deni needs to be able to walk in there and have some not cocktails, but I'm thinking cocktail weenies. I'm thinking I'm thinking hors d'oeuvres. She needs
pigs in a blanket.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
A little nosh in the lobby. That'd be great.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, the other one, too, is another one that we both said right away, too. And that's where, like, we ultimately decided that some of these paint a better picture. But this next one is pretty quick, though.
Yeah. So we said Expedition Everest. It's where the tracks are mangled. So you head up the hill and you think you know what's coming next. There's going to be you go up and over the hill, except you come up to the hill and you stop because obviously the Yeti has had his way with the tracks and you can't keep going forward. And I really enjoy being there and sitting there and just even if what's gonna happen because you've been on the ride a million times, but it's that feeling of dread, like, oh dear. And then you start to hear chatter come up from the back of the train about, what we're getting ready to do. And it is just that's just a fun attraction from beginning to end. But that scene alone is perfect.
It's that last bump when you're coming up to the split track that always does it, where you're like coming to the rest and you're like, okay, close enough. And then it's like, boom. And you're like, okay. And the fact that you have this view of basically all of Walt Disney World while you're up there is insane too. And it's just, it's a very memorable moment of the attraction for me because I'm afraid of heights and all this stuff. So it took a lot for me to get up there. And then when I'm in the front row and I got my mom to go on it too. And my mom just being like, what's happening? What's happening? Obviously she knows we're not going over, but that last bump was the one that did her in. But then you're right. That feeling all of a sudden of it going backwards is not, it's not a super common thing that you experience on a lot of roller coasters and places, at least that I hadn't. So it's just this kind of crazy, it really sets up for that unexpected adventure for the rest of the attraction, and the animatronic isn't working or any of that stuff. Maybe someday, I highly doubt it, but it's just, it really sets that mood really quickly and just puts you on just that right edge too, because how often does your roller coaster just stop and sit for a minute? You're just sitting there just long enough for you to be like, okay, now I'm uncomfortable, and then it lets you go. It's just it's a good one, but I feel like we picked some good scenes here.
I think we did too.
Yeah. So for you, our listeners and viewers, if you disagree or you have some scenes that you feel like we missed that should have been included, we would love to hear from you. So if you're watching this, please leave some comments on YouTube. And if you did enjoy this video, please don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. Thank you, Deni, for having this conversation with me. And
thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course, always. And then I just want to give one last shout out to Sherry Kessler as well. And she is a contributor of ours. So be sure to check out her original article to see what she said, because we only included, I believe, one scene from her 5. So and her article was titled "The 5 Best Walt Disney World Attraction Scenes." You'll find a link to that down in the description of this video and in the show notes page. And we asked that when you are considering coming to Walt Disney World or planning your next Disney vacation, that you please consider using the experts over at Dreams Unlimited Travel. It will cost you nothing extra on your vacation, and you help support the day-to-day runnings of the show. So it does mean a lot to us, and it keeps us employed. So thank you very much. But yeah, that is it for this week's episode. But we will return with another episode of the best and worst of Walt Disney World. Bye, everyone.